And we're back. Howlers
Live
Spotlight.
from DC.
Yeah, Howlers Spotlight.
Howlers Spotlight, episode 4. And they've all been fun, but this one's extra fun.
I think you say that every time.
Yeah, I'm going to probably say that most times, but I am genuinely excited. I do mean that. Skage Simonsen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's fun being here.
Well, first off, address the bubble-sized elephant in the room.
Yeah, the first time we met Skage was, I think, about 3 years ago.
3 years ago, Cancun.
Spring break.
Bubble party.
Good
time.
It was at the bubble party. That was a lot of fun. It was like what do you call those drinks? I remember they had a lot of the
Jello shots?
No, those like a really high alcohol level.
It is the
He probably had more of those
Four
than I did.
Locos.
Four Loko.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
Sponsorships everywhere.
Yeah, they had like
Four
a
Loko.
stage, I remember, and you could go up and have a chugging contest with the
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Little John showed up.
John showed up
2 days later.
Is it like the performer, the artist, Lil Jon?
Little John performed
No way.
in Cancun.
Was it planned, or did he just show up to the bubble
I think
party?
it was planned.
I think so.
He just like DJ'd and
Seems like a thing he would
screamed
just
stuff.
maybe show up at, though.
Yeah.
Scream stuff on
Potentially.
stage. Yeah.
Well, we got a lot to talk about. Pretty excited to do so. We'll start early on in your life, playing through the youth ranks. Sounds like you started at a club called SK Brann. So talk about your experience in the Norway youth system and what all that was like, whether it was competitive.
Yeah, so actually I started out in a different city in Grimstad.
Gotcha.
I played for a team called Jerv. It doesn't sound that good in English, but that's like a very, very small city in Norway. And then when I was 13, I moved to Bergen to play for Brann.
Gotcha.
Played there for about 3-4 years, 2-3 years actually. I could have stayed there with the academy, but in Norway, the academy at that point in time wasn't as competitive as playing, like we have 8 divisions. So I could go into a men's team and play in the 3rd, 4th division and start there instead of playing for like U16s,
Yeah.
So at 15, I chose to go to the 4th division to play men's soccer. It's more physical game, So I went to a team called Sandviken, which was in the 4th division. So I started 1 season there, and then when I was 17, I went to like a semi-pro team in the 2nd division. Played there for 3 years, from 17 till I was 19 and a half. And then, but when I was there, I was injured a lot. So I ruined my MCL. I was out for about 6 months, came back for 6 months, went out again for 6 months, and I went like that 3 times.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to go to college, because I had some plans back home, and I had like kind of like a deal that I was going to go into the 1st division after my 1st season there. But all that kind of stopped because of my injuries and stuff. So I decided to go to college at that point.
But by age 18, you had already been a journeyman, a seasoned veteran, playing for all these different clubs. What were some of the challenges you faced moving around so much? Did you go with family every time you'd relocate?
Yeah, so the first time my dad actually my parents split up when I was young. And my dad, both my mom and dad is actually from Bergen, whereas where Brann's from.
Brann is, right.
And my dad always wanted to move back. And I actually went on a few tournaments with Brann when I still lived in the small town Grimstad. So when he saw that I had an in with the club there, he saw that as an opportunity to move back home,
Yeah.
So he he kind of sold me on that idea to go there and play and move to Bergen. So I moved with my dad and my older brother to Bergen back then. My mom and my sister stayed back. And then all the other clubs I played for was all in Bergen, because that's the 2nd biggest city in Norway, so they got a bunch of clubs there.
Gotcha. And when we were walking over here, you just popped an interesting nugget of information. There's a Norwegian footballing giant right now by the name of Erling Haaland, and how do you know him?
So he's actually my 2nd cousin.
That's crazy.
It's super funny, and
Yeah.
I know some Americans, they think that everyone in Norway is my 2nd cousin.
That's not going to do it any favors, by the way.
I know. It's not completely like that, but I haven't seen him in a few years. But I remember when we were younger, we had like a cabin at the same place. So we went skiing sometimes, and like we grew up closer to that side of the family. But when you grow up and like I went to college, like I haven't been back and seen them as much as we used to. But obviously that's a fun fact for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess when it comes to a player like Haaland, obviously you know him on a personal level, but because he's so big and he's this mega star now, does that kind of open Norwegian football to a whole different landscape and kind of young players seeing him being so big and achieving all the success?
Yeah, I think so, but I think that kind of started with Martin Odegaard when he when he was 15 and went to Real Madrid.
Yeah, wonder kid.
Yeah, so like I think that's the first player that really like got in the spotlight from Norway with soccer, and then there's been a few guys after that. And if you look at the national team from Norway now compared to just 10 years ago, every single player in the squad is playing internationally, and we got a bunch of guys in the Prem. And Erling Haaland was not the first guy to do that, you know. So I think he for sure is someone everyone in Norway looks up to, and he has a lot of kids. A lot of kids are looking up to him for sure. But I think that kind of started with Martin Odegaard.
Yep. No, definitely. Like you said, those other players kind of they paved the path for a player like Haaland to become so big. So
for sure, yeah. And Erling Haaland's dad too was a player. He played for City. You know?
Yeah, right.
And I think Erling Haaland he deserves everything he's got, because every level that he's taken, he's taken by storm, you know. But obviously I think he's gotten good guidance and stuff from him and that experience that he has, you know.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense with the City connection, obviously, of his dad, and what kind of like paved his path, and what it's taken 5 matches, double-digit goals.
He scored today.
He scored today. Walking over here
just an hour ago. So it's like it's incredible to watch what he's doing, and yeah, he's part specimen for sure. Like not human. I'm still confidently believe that. But you touched on it a little bit, just as far as kind of what led you to select coming to university, but as you made the decision, the injuries were a factor. What made you choose the United States, and then why St. John's?
So I one big reason is that when I was 17, I was just thinking about soccer, and it's one of those, if I make it before I'm 19 and 1 year out of high school, because that's when you kind of got to decide if you're going to start getting an education or not. And in Norway and most other countries, you can't combine those two, you know. And coming from Norway, and it's getting bigger and bigger in Norway, you know about the chance if you play soccer, you can get a full ride at a full scholarship somewhere, and it's just it's a nice experience to get. You know, I lived in New York for a few years, lived in Dallas for a few years, so it's just like that whole idea that you can get a bachelor's at the same time as you're kind of keeping that dream alive. You know. So I think for me that's and my brother actually went to college 2 years before me, so I knew that from him, you know, and how he had it over there. So
was New York the first time you had been to the States?
No, so I went to New York once actually before.
Okay.
5 years before. So I
probably sold you then too, seeing the city.
Yeah, for sure. I love New York City.
No, that's awesome. And so did your brother play?
Yeah, so he played D2. He's a left wing back. In many ways, kind of an opposite type of player than me. Super fit. He's good on the ball, got a good left foot. But I'm not the same player as him at all. So
Right. What was that personally? What was that transition like making the jump transition? Obviously, you're an easygoing guy, but was there any difficulties or challenges that you faced in making that transition?
Yeah, like I remember when I first came. Like I'm a guy, I talk a lot. I have quick comments and stuff a lot. And I remember when I first came over, I wasn't as what do you call it? I wasn't so comfortable with my English, you know. So I thought, in a lot of conversations, the first few months, I didn't really speak that much as I was used to. Now I don't really care that much.
Just off the cuff.
Your English is better than our Norwegian.
Yeah, exactly. So now I might say something wrong, and it might not be the best English, but I'm saying it anyways. I remember that was the thing, but I do think for a lot of people that come to college, they're moving from far away, you know, and I think coming to a team really helps you out, you know, because on the team I went to, we probably had 13, 14 internationals, and I lived in a soccer house from day one with a bunch of guys, you know, played on the team. We had preseason before the school even started, you know, so I think that transition was kind of easy because of that whole aspect of it.
Yeah. And I'm sure the city of New York, it being so culturally different, like there's so many different cultures there, it's probably easy to settle in and kind of find different people that you can relate with.
For sure. Yeah, it's so diverse there, you know, so you find everything.
Yeah.
You know? And so I really didn't have a big problem with it, but for sure it was a big step, you know. It's very different from what I was used to in Norway.
Yeah.
Any like Norwegian food spots is there like a little Norway in New York? I know there's a
not
little
too sure.
Italy, so there should be a little Norway by that standard. But is there anything that you found that you especially, it was like a taste of home a little bit?
I think No, I don't think I found. I haven't found that much Norway in New York, to be honest.
Hear that, Andrew? We refer to him as the king of New York because he's from Long Island, looks like you got to get a new food spot in town.
Gosh, yeah.
I'll make some calls, right?
Yeah.
Improve the Norway scene in New York, please.
Maybe that's something I can do, open up a little Norwegian restaurant or something.
Exactly, yeah.
Big window of business. It's a big opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
So what did you major in college?
I did economics.
Economics? Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Did you have a natural interest in that? Is that always something you were?
No, no natural interest, to be honest. I wanted to take an education that was good.
Yeah,
something I could use in Norway, here, wherever. And I think you could do, you could go a lot of ways with an economic degree, So that's the reason I took that degree.
Yeah. So I guess when you were called upon in the Super Draft, what was that like? That experience of being selected and by DC United, kind of give us insight into your thought process there.
That whole it was super weird for me actually because I was planning to take my master's in college because we got that extra year with COVID. So I had told all the agents that I was talking to that just to wait for a year and not. I don't know exactly how it works, but I think they kind of do a lot of the work for you. They push you into clubs and they kind of pitch you. But I told all of them that I'm not interested in getting drafted, and I told my coaches because they had to set aside a full ride for me, Yeah. And I told them that I'm not gonna go, and they basically told me that if you have a okay season, I remember they said last year, if you have an okay season, you'll get drafted 3rd round. If you have a good season, you'll go 1st round. So we gotta know that we have you. You gotta make sure that you're not gonna go. So I told them, okay, I'll make sure. So I called all the agents that I was talking to, and I was like, okay, I'm not going. So when I went back for break in November or December, I had no plans of getting drafted. So it was kind of weird. I was going to go back to Dallas in I think January 20th or something, and then 2 days before the draft, one of the agents that I've talked to just texted me and said, "You're on the draft list." And I didn't really understood what it meant, and I was like, so he explained a little bit what it meant to me, but I still thought that okay. If something happens, I'll just not go and go next year. But then I learned during the draft, that I can just be on the draft list once if I don't actively get off it. So at that point, I was like, shit, at this point, I just hope I get picked, So
it became sort of like a now or never thing that you didn't think it was going to be?
Exactly,
That's a very interesting rule.
It was weird, for sure. And then, so the first few months, actually, I second-guessed it a lot the first time when it happened because I did want to get that bachelor before I left. I'm 24 years old. Yeah. So it's one of those where if I have that master's, I don't mind going in and playing for a few years and see where it takes me.
Right.
But so it was kind of weird. And then all of a sudden I was watching a movie with my dad, and then I just got a phone call from the GM at DC, and she just said, "Yeah, we picked you in the draft. I'll see you in a few days." And at that point, I thought, of course, I'll just go for it,
Yeah.
make the best out of it.
So were you living were you in Norway at this point, or were you still in the States?
No, so I was in Norway at that point.
Okay, yeah.
So they bought the tickets 2 days later, and I should have, if I knew about it, I obviously would have trained more in that period of time.
I'm about to be on TV. Oh. What did your family think? Were they really excited for you?
Yeah, they thought it was super exciting, and they for sure wanted me to go for it. That's probably one of the reasons I didn't even think about doing the Masters, because I think they would have been disappointed with that decision as well.
Yeah.
I probably would have too, and that's what I realized, that 10 years from now, I would look back and be disappointed about not going for it. I can always take a Masters.
Yeah. Right.
So so they were super happy, and it was super cool. Norway, I don't think they've had anyone drafted before. So the next day, a lot of newspapers called and stuff, and it was a cool time for sure.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on the whole structure in the U.S. when it comes to a draft compared to the European setup?
I think it's super cool. At least I think it's some in other sports, the fact that basketball players and football players at the highest level in college hasn't been able to make money, stuff like that. I think is kind of crazy. But soccer wise and the way I've had it, I think is great, because you get that education and you play and you really. It's great facilities, you get 3-4 hours a day to do your sport. So I think it's a really, really cool thing. For sure.
It feels a lot more like college athletes who come to the U.S. have so much more respect and gratification for the actual education, because I will say so much of, especially Division I culture, it's like a running thing that like Division I football players never go to class. A lot of the D1 athletes never go to class. They never ended up going to any. It's like a fake diploma essentially because they were really good at a sport. But it always is so interesting to hear because I feel like so often it's like for people like you actually came here and understood what an education can get you. You're like, wow, this is a pretty nice setup.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's one of the big things because I think at least in Norway you can get education for free, but it's still it's nowhere. You can't find the
we don't have that
combination
here.
Of no, you can't find that here. But you can't find anywhere where you can combine your sport and your education as well as you can do here. So it's like it's great, and I think a lot of people in Norway also that are playing in that first division level, which is pro. I think a lot of them would benefit from going to college first and take it from there after for sure.
Were there any clubs that came calling from Norway while you were in school and I guess throughout the different years?
Yeah, so obviously like the clubs I played for, I went on kind of loan one time when I was back. I just played third division for like 6 games. I was back one summer. I've talked to I had actually a team that wanted me to come in and practice during winter time and see if I could sign, but I was never really interested in it. So I never really put myself in positions where that was a thing because I was always gonna finish my degree here and take it from there after. So when I was in college, that's what I was doing, and I wasn't interested in going early in the draft, and I wasn't interested in going to sign for a club in Europe either while I was in college. So yeah.
So picked by DC, now playing with Loudoun. I do have to ask before we talk about Loudoun, what does your dad think of the area? Has he come to visit you here yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
He's actually going to come in, I think, a month. He's going to come for the last game. Yeah, we're going to play Charleston away, and he's going to come for that. And then we're going to head up to New York for a few days, so that's going to be a lot of fun for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
Charleston's a fun city.
Do you think this city will stack up to Bergen? Like, do you think he'll find things that...
Yeah, I think my dad loves a good time. And he's been in the States multiple times. He's been in New York a few times, so he's looking forward to come down. He actually never came down when I was in college either. It just didn't work out. So he's really looking forward to come now. He watches every game though. He stays up. Even in college he did. So he's hyped about it. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that.
What's the time difference on that? What time is he watching kickoff?
So he's watching it. It's in the AM for sure. It depends on where we're at and when we play, but it's usually around 2 a.m. And then, but if you play in California, it's like 5, 6 a.m. So it depends on when and where we're playing, but it's late.
But if he's out for a good time, he comes back, just flicks the TV on. You're on the TV.
I do think that he's done that a few times. He comes home at 2 a.m. and then
it's like I got 4 hours to kill until the game. I might have a couple.
No, I can see him doing that. I do think I'm suspicious that he's done that a few times.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I guess, was your dad kind of your biggest influence on you when it came to football?
Yeah, I would say so for sure. He's always been he played himself, stopped too early, and that's what he's always said was his biggest regret because family and stuff. He got married too early and got a kid too early. But then after that he's been in coaching a lot. So he's been around the game. He's still a coach right now back home on the side to his actual job, and then so for sure he loves it. He's always been following me to games, and he's for sure my biggest inspiration for soccer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very cool. So one thing we are very, very curious about is a recent playing experience you had against Bayern Munich with DC United. Obviously, you netted a goal, but what was like that? What was that like? Was it any different? Did you approach it the same? Just talk us through that.
Yeah. So I remember going into the game. I've gotten this question a few times.
I've been waiting all weekend.
No, but I remember thinking that I wasn't nervous at all because no one expected anything. We're playing as the best team in the world, a lot of the best players in the world. So it's one of those. No matter how you do, you
just try your best.
It's so I was thinking going into it, I was gonna just try to play my game, and like if I get a chance to take someone on 1v1, I'm gonna do it, and then. But what I remember, it's so easy for soccer players, at least because it's so many players out in the world, and you don't get to see the guys that are playing at the highest levels too often. And I've heard a few guys that like had a closer connection to people that played in the Prem or in bigger leagues in Europe. In college, I played with a guy that's from France, and he played on the Bordeaux Academy. And like he was always like, he always got annoyed at us when we kind of looked at some of these clubs and players as gods, you know, because he said like they're super good, but they're not that good. You know what I mean? They're still human, you know. And that's what I realized when we played them, is that they're crazy good, and because consistency is nuts, but it's not like they're not all faster and they're not all stronger, you know. And like when you're in a 1v1 battle, it's like it's still a man v man type of thing, you know. And that's what I realized. Like I had a few battles with Delict, for example, and I came out with one of them. I actually got a meg on him, you know, like and it's just one of those where I realized that the difference isn't as big as you would think, you know.
Yeah, so, I was always curious about that when other players match up against, I guess, a club like DC matches up against a side like Bayern, and the mentality that you have to look at it and approach the game is, like you said, your friend who plays in Bordeaux, you said? Yeah, they're just human. And if you just look at it like that, it can take a lot of the pressure off your shoulders.
We saw Minnesota United slap Everton in a preseason game. I know Everton and Bayern are in the same club, but it's an MLS side that really took it to a top 5 league side. So. Yeah,
for sure. And then like when you're in the MLS and you hear them talk about the Prem and stuff, it's still like that's a different thing, you know. The MLS is getting better and better, I think, every year, but it's still like you don't see it and you don't really play against them. And it was still, obviously, it was preseason. I do think in a competitive game, Everton would probably beat every single team in the MLS. But like it's that's what you realize, and that's what I realized. And I thought that was cool because it shows that after that, when I see younger guys around Loudoun and DC United Academy and stuff that have a lot of talent at 17, I kind of see that if they just get on the right track, like if they get into a Bayern Munich Academy, for example, and stuff works out for them, they could be there themselves, you know. But if they don't, they're not going to get there, you know. So it's a lot about luck, you know. It's a lot about just getting the right opportunities. But it was a sick experience for sure. And you asked about the goal. I scored when we were down 5-0. So my first instinct was to celebrate. So I was like, I started running around the goal, and I was
your
like,
shirt off.
But then the second I started running, I was like, shit, we're down 5-0. this is gonna look dumb, you know. So I just went back, picked up the ball, and then but it was super cool for sure.
Oh, what a rush!
Who were you D'ing up most of the game? Like, was there a guy you had a lot of battles with? I know you mentioned Delict a couple times.
It was him for sure. Yeah, I like to play in the middle mostly, but I played that game as I was a 9 winger type of thing. I think I switched halfway. So it was Delict. He was on my side, and I had a few battles with him. And actually, I got his jersey after the game.
Oh,
so
really?
I still have that at home. Yeah. So I had a few battles with him, and it was actually I had one good one where I turned him and I got a meg on him, and then he dragged me down, so he got a yellow. And then right after that, he actually went out with injury. And then after the game, I went into the locker room, and then someone came in with his jersey, and they said he wanted to have this.
Oh wow!
So you
didn't even, that's really cool.
So that was super cool for sure. And now like it's just one of those where it's cool because at this point I've scored against Bayern. I'll always have that, you know. It's not gonna give me a lot, but it's still a cool.
I don't know if Holland has scored against Bayern. Does he have a goal against Bayern?
I'm pretty sure.
He does. Yeah, he played at Dortmund.
I just didn't think about it too much. I was. So talk about Loudoun now. You're well into your season. Things seem to be going pretty well. We saw you did go a little bit viral with a pretty nice assist a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So congrats on that. But
thank you.
Tell us about Loudoun. What's that been like?
It's been fun. I was right after preseason. I got injured, so I was out for the first 2 months of the season, which I found hard because that's really when you get the chance to get fit. And then during the season, I feel like you just maintain. So when I first came back into the season, I wasn't as fit as I wanted to be. Yeah. And it's hard to gain fitness in the season because you basically have one hard practice session a week, and then the game, you know. So I came back from injury officially 2 days before the first game, and I've started every game since then, which is a super good thing for me. But obviously, like the 5, 6, 7 first games, I played 50, 60 minutes because I couldn't do more, you know. So I thought that was a little. I wish obviously I didn't get injured, but it's been good for me, man. For sure, it's been a good experience. I think coming from college, I think in a lot of ways, I almost think it's easier to play in the USL because, even the experience I've had with DC, because college is just so fast paced and everyone is just pressing and pressing and pressing, and then they sub you out and then you go in and press again. It's more a tactical game, so I think you have more time on the ball, and it's more like you're like in your zone, and it's a game I enjoy playing way more than what I did in college. So I think it's been good so far.
And so I guess, what did you pick up an injury with?
So hamstring.
Hamstring. Okay, that's a tough one to shake off, especially after 60 minutes. You're going to be feeling that.
Yeah.
I guess so would you say you're one of the older guys on the Loudoun team right now?
Yeah, actually, it's a weird. It's my first year, but I am for sure. We have it's a few guys that are older than me, but like I think our oldest guy is 29. He's our captain right now, and then we have a few guys that's been there that's like 26. But besides that, I think I'm like number 5 or 6.
Okay, nice. So I guess when it comes to, you talked about those players that you look at that could potentially get on a path to the Bayern level. Do you try and like lend a hand and like a mentality aspect or a coaching aspect to kind of give them advice on things they should do, shouldn't do?
Yeah, for sure. It's a few guys, and I basically I've just told them that like I think they know, and I think some of those players are like they think highly of themselves already, and I think it's hard, because I've tried to kind of like give advice and stuff, and I'll keep doing that, but I think a lot of it really comes with the opportunities they get. I know some of the guys, I don't remember exactly how it was, but I know some of the guys have had interest from, a Dortmund academy and something with a Bayern Munich academy. And if I heard and knew that someone like could choose to do that or sign with DC, I would 100% advise them to go for the academy. But for sure, if I'm around it and if I hear something and I think I could give some advice, I would have, for sure. And obviously I've seen a lot of guys growing up in Norway as well, and some people made some choices and other people make others, and you see what works out, in the long run. So for sure, and it's fun. I think in a lot of ways it's fun to play with a lot of young guys because they're just in a different part of their career, and some of them, 19-year-old is on his 4th year as a homegrown, for example. It's a lot of fun things you see there for sure.
Yeah, life hasn't beaten down a 19-year-old yet, so they're not like as crotchety as most of us, older 20s are at this point.
Yeah, mid-20s.
Feeling older every day, especially after last night. Too much fun in the area last night for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Oddly enough, and I don't know if Connor brought this up, but the team you guys are playing this weekend has a player who we've also interviewed. Danny Griffin is a midfielder on Pittsburgh, so kind of hoping we get a matchup there. That might be kind of crazy.
Up against him.
And he's a midfielder, is
He's a midfielder.
He's like more of an 8 and 6 midfielder.
Pretty crafty.
I'm playing as an 8 now, so we might get a little matchup there.
Okay.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll have to put you guys in touch after the game.
He played at Providence College. I know you guys matched up against them when you played for St. John's.
Yeah. We played them. I played them in 2018 and 2019. Yeah. I don't know if he was there, though.
He graduated 2 years ago.
He's been in the.
He's been with Pittsburgh for a couple of seasons.
Yeah,
now.
A couple of seasons. So. Yeah, but it's a few years ago since I played at St. John's. 2019, I think. 18, 19.
He'll be wearing the 12 kit. I think that's
yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna look out for that.
Shorter, stocky.
Yeah.
If I have the ball and I find him, I'm gonna try to do something fun.
we told him we're coming, so we'll chat after the game. Hopefully, we'll grab a pick or something. But
for sure.
So we didn't touch upon this earlier, but what kind of made you transfer from St. John's to SMU?
So
I
would say it's just the playing style.
Yeah.
You actually asked earlier why I chose St. John's, and I just made the decision to go to college super late when it was like 3 months until the season started, and I had a guy that helped me out a year earlier, and he mentioned at that point that I had a lot of places I could go and all this, and it was more like open and I could pick. But at the point where I decided to go, I really had three schools left with a lot of scholarship. So I just asked him, what's your best advice here? And for a guy like me, the New York school is an easy sell,
Yep.
And he also told me that Big East is a respected conference. So if you just go in there and start your freshman year, you can transfer wherever you want. So that's the approach I really went in with. Loved it at St. John's. Socially, it was great. The playing style didn't fit me at all, but I think it benefited me because it was one of those. It gave me one of those where we didn't have too many offensive players that could create and stuff. So I kind of became that one guy at St. John's, which gave me a name easier than it would have been to get a name in college if I played at a club with a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
So that I think that was clutch for me. And then I always kind of planned to transfer out from St. John's.
Yeah.
And then when I chose to transfer, nowadays they have that transfer portal, which is amazing. You just put your name in there. And I had some accolades from the Big East and from St. John's at that point. So schools just reached out to me, really. And at that point, I could really go wherever I wanted to. And SMU just came off a really good season. I think they lost in the Elite Eight against Virginia, who made the final that year. And I actually watched the game, and I thought SMU was better in that game. And they also had a Norwegian guy that was my age. That I kind of knew from Norway. I knew he played on the national team as a kid, and he kind of sold that SMU bit into me. So I was like, okay, I'll come there. So
How
And
was the food?
Yeah.
I gotta ask, was the Dallas pretty good barbecue?
yeah, I'm actually
foodie?
I'm not a huge barbecue guy, really. The one
That's
thing
because you're an athlete, and I just put garbage in my body, so you probably have to be a bit more careful.
No, but the food was good. I do think one of the things I enjoy the most about going to Dallas is that New York is sick, but it's a place where it's, as a college student, it's very expensive to have fun in New York.
Yeah.
And a lot of the good and cool things you can do in New York cost a lot of money. In Dallas, I think I paid the same amount of money for rent in Dallas and New York, but my place in Dallas was beautiful. I had a nice apartment, pool outside. So you get a lot of nice stuff for free. The weather, we played on beautiful grass fields. So a lot of stuff that you kind of get for free. I had in Dallas.
A bit cleaner too than New York.
Way cleaner. Man, you should have seen the house I was in.
Oh yeah.
No, but you should have seen the house I was in my freshman year. It was that was a college house for sure.
Oh yeah, that's just full of shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Subway
for sure.
situation isn't great either.
Yeah.
In Jamaica, Queens.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
No, but no, so that's why I transferred. It was a way of playing football that fit me way better, and it was a better team, supposed to be at least. And yeah, so that's why I went there.
And so obviously Loudoun now, you still have your bachelor's degree. What is kind of like your long-term plan in terms of football? And I guess I know you could always go back to school and get your master's. Just kind of talk to us about that.
Yeah, so right now I'm kind of just taking it day by day. I'm gonna play next year for sure. I have no idea where I'll play. I think I've done pretty well when I've been up with DC, when I've played with DC. But I think in my situation it's almost impossible because I'm an international, 24-year-old and an offensive player. Which like the guys they signed there is like Christian Benteke, Ravel Morrison. It's one of those, for them to sign me, they're not gonna sign me for a roster spot. They gotta have to know that I'm gonna go in and start and play. You know. So it's I don't think that's gonna happen personally. So I might sign somewhere else in the USL next year. I might re-sign with Loudoun. I really don't know yet. But that's what I'm doing now every game, just trying to make myself look as good as I can for next year.
Well, you had that clip that, like Christian said.
It's going to help.
The clip's
You're only 24 and you've already had this illustrious career playing against a lot of these great teams as well. Are there parts of the country and in the United States rather that you're curious about playing at? Or there's like California's pretty beautiful.
Yeah, so I love California for sure. I'm always gonna go back to say New York. New York is my favorite place, and I even after I moved to Dallas, I went back to New York a lot.
Yeah.
But for sure, California, Orange County, for example, will be super nice. Only thing with California for me is that it's so much further away from home. It's a 9-hour time difference instead of 6, and it's also it's 6 hours to fly to New York and then a new 8 hours to Norway. So I really don't know. I'll just have to see what type of options I get, and then I'll figure it out from there. But if New York had a good USL team, I would have tried to put myself in there for sure.
What team? Do you know what team is USL in New York? Oh, there's
Red Bull too, or
there's a team in Queens, I think.
Yeah. Queensboro actually.
Queensboro,
they're coming first year. Then 2023, Queensboro FC. Yeah, they're gonna come into the league. So I've looked at that for sure. I told my agent about it, but he doesn't really back it because he doesn't it's first year in the league and it's probably not going to be the best team. So he told me to aim a little higher. But I've looked into that for sure.
Would you ever consider going back to Europe?
Yeah, I would, but for now I really like it here, and I'm trying to stay for at least another year. And then I'll just take it as it goes.
Would love to ask you to wrap up with some Prem questions. You noticed my Spurs kit. He's also a fan. Very excited.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A big 2-1 win today. What are your thoughts? I've been pretty unbearable.
He said they won the league about 15 times already
this season. If at any point
season.
Spurs are first, in my opinion, they've technically won the league. So it doesn't matter what month
I
that
can
happens.
get behind it.
Everybody always says that. What are your thoughts on the Prem this season? Obviously, we already talked about Holland, but do you watch quite a bit when you can? I know you're a busy guy yourself.
Yeah, I watched as much as I can for sure. I'm super excited about the Prem this year, actually. My fantasy team has done pretty well so far. Happy about that.
You got Leon Bailey. Leon Bailey scored today.
Yeah, but you know what? I realized that I actually put him on the bench.
Oh, no.
No. I realized on the way off here. But no, I think what I think is super interesting this year is that I think Arsenal and Tottenham is better than they've been. I think Tottenham has been good for the last few years, but I think we're a little stronger, with Richarlison. I think we're a little deeper and a little stronger than we've been. I think Arsenal is looking very good.
And dangerous.
I think Liverpool is looking like a team that has to fight for a top four.
Unfortunately.
And I think City is just going to take it. I think they're going to take it early.
I think Haaland's going to score a few more goals this season, probably.
Honestly, at this point, I think it's a higher chance of him scoring a hat trick every game than not scoring. So.
And then of course Manchester United. What are your thoughts on them?
I still think it's hard to judge because obviously they started out shocking, but then they proved against Liverpool that they do have good players. It's a team that I think they can turn it around. They won yesterday, right?
Yeah, they won beat Leicester 2 days ago.
So I think that one is a hard one. I think they could end up at 10th place, but I also think they could all of a sudden end up fighting for a top 6, 7, maybe even top 4 if they start doing really well. Yeah. So I think that's a hard one. I think it's a little bit too early to write them off. Yeah. But we'll see.
That goes for most clubs too. I think when you look across the leagues, the league itself, like even Liverpool struggling today, it's like it's still only 5, 6 games in. Yeah,
for sure. I just think for Liverpool, because it's been Liverpool and City the last few years, and how good they've been, you really can't afford to drop a lot of games, and they've almost dropped the amount of games they could afford to drop already.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think I just don't think they're going to be able to compete with City this year, because City is just the best team in the world.
We call them the Hitmen.
Yeah, it's a hitman vibe.
Just a bunch of assassins.
Yeah, they come in with briefcases and get the job done and leave.
No, I feel that's a great. No, I agree with that for sure. And I think also for like Erling Haaland to come into City is he's made his way up there and he deserves to be there. But being a 9 at that team, like I've looked at FootMob and he has 4 passes a game, and 3 goals. So it's like he's just standing inside the box and then he has 5 of the best midfielders in the world
a platter.
Just finding him, So I just can't see that not working out.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
So. It seems like a pretty good Premier League community around here too. We had a little bit too much consumption last night to make it out to a bar this morning, but there was a few we had planned on going to, but we're going to see the United Arsenal game tomorrow at the United bar. That's nice. I think 15 or so minutes away, but it seems like a soccer community overall, I think, around here.
I do think the soccer community overall is pretty big here. It's cool for sure. I think even around in Loudoun, that Virginia area, it's huge with soccer for all the young kids around here. Unfortunately, with in the season, and I've kind of been in season since I came here, it's we don't have a lot of weekends off, and like today it was a Prem round and we had practice, so I for sure would have known about those places if I had the chance to go there and watch games, but for sure I think soccer is it's a good spot for soccer in DC for sure.
Awesome. I mean, any other questions?
No, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you 1,000 times for coming to meet us. I'm glad it all worked out. We're in a WeWork right now, and it seems like there was some roadblocks we might not be able to get over in terms of entrance, but everything seemed to work out pretty well. But thank you, man. It was awesome.
Thank you for having me. It was a great time.
Thank you so much, as well, for being so patient while we did this. Enjoying the view.
And where can the people find you? I guess where can people watch your games? Let them know.
ESPN Plus. All the games are shown there.
I'm a subscriber. I've seen a few of the games.
Loyal subscriber, yeah.
That's great.
Awesome. We'll wrap it up. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you very soon. Howlers Spotlight number 4 is complete.